Okay, week 2 of our set on Introduction to Base 10 for kindergarten and first grade. And this week is learning the unit names like 110 or 510s, etc., and numerals for multiple sets of a unit. That sounds really complicated, but it's actually a really clear way for students to start to understand naming numbers, but also start to understand the repeating patterns within the numerals. So let's dive right in so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's check out what we have on the agenda for Monday. So Monday, we want to review from last week and see what students remember. So we'll show them a quantity and we'll say, "What is that?" And they can shout it out. "It's a 10. And we'll say, "Can you write it?" Give them a second. And then say, "Check it and make yours look like mine." Do you remember what that is? They'll shout it out, 1,000. Write it down. Give them a minute. Check yours and make sure it looks like mine. How many zeros does 1,000 have? You can prompt things kind of like that. So you'll do that with all the different numbers, and we'll do it a couple times. And we have some taunting in there. This time I'm going to fool you, and we'll go in a different order. This time we went backwards. How interesting. And I think there's one more. So you can kind of get the gist of how that works. Now we're going to switch gears and we're going to say, "What units are these?" We should have students say ones. And then we will highlight, if you see the guide at the top of the page, yeah, those are ones. How many are there? Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 ones, so we're using that unit language. Let's write it. So 5 ones is just 5. You guys know how to write 5. Can you write it 3 times and then show me? Ones are super easy peasy, right? You guys know this. All right, and then we'll have them do the next one. And I believe these are ones as well. Walk through the same process. Should we do a harder one? They'll say, yeah. And so this time we'll show them 10s. What units are these? Hopefully they'll shout out 10s. We'll highlight, yeah, they're 10s. Remember what 10 looks like? How many are there? 1, 2, 3. Let's write it. 3 10s looks like this. Write it again. Write it again. And so students can kind of see how the pattern of naming numbers translates into the numerals, which is really cool. And over the next few weeks, they will get that reinforced time and time again. Tuesday is done in exactly the same manner as those last few ones, where we're naming units, counting them, and then writing the number. And we're doing it with 10s and 1s. Wednesday, we're still working with 10s and 1s, but it's going to look a little bit different. Let me show you what I mean. So you'll start with the same sort of thing that we've been doing. So I'm going to skip right through that. And then we'll take away a little of the scaffolds. Let's see how you do on your own. So we're going to let them count the units and then try to write it. And then we'll say, "All right, check it. Does yours look like mine? Make yours look like mine," and then write it 2 more times. Now we're going to throw them a little curveball. We're going to say, "What is this?" Let's write it. So students will count, and this is meant to be kind of a tricky question so you can have a dialogue, but they'll see that there are 10 ones, and we'll write it. We'll say, "There's 10. Wait, that's a 10. Where are the ones?" And then you'll say, "Watch and count by ones. 10 ones is the same as 1 10. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow, so once we get 10 ones, we make a 10, and then we write it as 10. Write it 2 more times. So you're introducing them to that concept once again, which we kind of touched on in the first week. But again, this is just subtle touches, planting the seeds for this understanding. And then we'll play a trick question game. Which is greater, 4 ones or 4 10s? I want you to write it on your board. Which one is greater? Write it 3 times. How did you know? And have a student maybe share how they knew. Well, obviously 4 10s is bigger than 4 1s, or whatever they might say. All right, erase your boards. Let's do another one. I think this is the really tricky one. Which is greater? 10 1s or 110? Hitting again on that understanding. Write it down. Kids will probably have a moment of confusion, and then you'll say, it's a trick. Remember, 10 ones is the same as 110. And then ask someone, if you knew that, how did you know? And then have them share. And that's the end for Wednesday. Thursday, we get into hundreds with kids, which they are generally very, very excited about. And it follows the same pattern as before. But it looks like I have a review question first from the day before, just to reinforce that really important concept. So now here we go. So what units are these? Hundreds. Remember, that's what they look like. Point to the upper right corner. How many are there? 1, 2, 3. Based on what you know about this, how do you think you write 300s? And maybe give them a chance to grapple with this for a second. And then show them and then say, make yours look like mine. Remember, hundreds have 2 zeros. Does yours have 2 zeros? If so, you can write it 2 more times. So it ends with taking away some of the scaffolds and seeing if students can write it, but then letting them revise their work as always. Friday, let's talk about it. We have them start off in the same way, reviewing hundreds. And then pretty quickly take away the scaffolds and say, let's see how you do on your own. And then let them test. And then we will get to, the other tricky one. So what is this? 10 tens. This is how we write 10 tens. Wait, that says 100. I'm supposed to be writing about 10 tens. Well, watch. Let's count by tens. 10 tens is the same as 100. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So when we see 10 tens, 10 tens make 100. Let's write it 2 more times. Trick question game. Which is greater? Got a very basic one, as usual. And then we give them the challenging one. Which is greater, 10 tens or 100? And this might confuse some because those 10 tens look kind of bigger than the 100. Write it down, which one's greater? And then you write 100 and you say, it's a trick. Remember, 10 tens is the same as 100. So that finishes up our week on this one, and things will all be reinforced next week. Once again, when students get to see the patterns. Please leave any questions or comments, especially if it feels like your students need extra support in any particular area. I would love to add that to the slides.